If you are a black pillar watching this video, congratulations, you've made it to the right place. Now you might be asking yourself why you should listen to me because I'm so good looking and funny and charismatic. But just know that I'll teach you more than any black pillar has ever taught you. Ever. So be grateful because I took the time out of my day to make this video for you. I'm going to start off by giving the biggest problem I have with the black pill, and then we'll get into the important part that you actually need to hear. The biggest problem that I have with the black pill is that it will cause men to attest it to themselves just because they are hopeless, rather than because they actually fall into the category. Right? They attest themselves to the ideology and not the fact that they actually fit into it. That's my biggest problem. I think even some black pillars would agree with me on that. Not only that, but its main category is on not maximizing yourself. Right, pretty much saying I can never reach that man's potential, so I won't reach my own potential. Which I just don't understand. It's like saying, well, I can't make $1 billion in my lifetime, so I won't try to make 1 million. It doesn't make any sense to me. Now this isn't me saying that looks don't matter, or being fat, short, ugly, bald, or of a certain race doesn't play a part. But just continue to watch the video and I guarantee that you'll learn something. Now on to the good stuff. Listen to what I say and listen very carefully. I don't care if you have to write it down, take out a fucking piece of pen and paper and write this shit down. Sex isn't about an exchange of power or any of this bullshit. Sex is only about to make sure that we reproduce. I'm gonna say that one more time for you. Sex is to make sure that we reproduce successfully as a species, right, as creatures. That is all. Now the two reasons as to why women mate or fuck or have sex or have children that I have found to be the best reasoning is intersexual selection and intrasexual selection. Now I'm going to explain to you what these are, but I ask that you also look it up yourself. So what is intersexual selection? I'll tell you. Intersexual selection is where women don't mate necessarily for survival, but they mate because of certain traits or behaviors, right? Attractive features. This can be things like men that are tall, men that have different color eyes, certain hair, shit like that, right? Things that you probably can't control. This is all genes, pretty much. Facial features, all of that. Your eyes, eyebrows, etc. You understand. The interesting thing about this choice of selection is that they actually hinder survival. Some of them. For example, women like tall men. Now why is that? Because tall men actually are more likely to die faster. Do you understand? Our goal is to reproduce so that we can live as a species. But they actually die faster if they're taller. They're mating for certain traits. I also think that aggression falls in this category. Right, so women are just more naturally to mate with someone who's aggressive, but this also gives you the chance of dying faster too. Right, or being up in jail nowadays. Remember though, this is intersexual selection. I'm going to explain the second option, which is intrasexual selection. This is where women mate off things like competition. Just so happens to be the case that the more competitive you are, the higher chance that you have of reproducing. Then there's things like self-promotion, which is the most socially desirable way. This is self-improvement. There is derogation of the other party, so pretty much bringing down other men or women, right, of the same sex. Back in the days with men, it used to be physical, right, but then now that, obviously that's illegal. Men still do this, but it's more so in groups, like modern times. And say we have a group of men over here, we're going to exclude you from the group. or women gossiping or calling each other names like she's a slut. You know, it's actually funny because they showed women pictures of other women, and all they had to do was rate each other. And the closer that women were to ovulation or capable of getting pregnant, the more likely, or not the more likely, the lower that they rated the other women, pretty much bringing each other down to say that they're more valuable, they're more deserving of reproducing. She doesn't look as good. Do you understand? Then there's things like cosmetic surgery, right? Lip fillers, all of that stuff. Now, why do women get lip fillers? Why? To draw attention to their lips. Things like clothing and makeup also fall into this. I think this is actually a black pill term, but it fits in this category as well. Chest or maxing. It usually tends to be with shorter men, like Kevin Hart and Kai Cenat or something like that. This is not me making fun of them, because that is what is required. Stuff like culture and race also play a part, right? So women preferring white men or black men or whatever the case is. Another point is women are more likely to sleep with the winner of something, regardless of what it is. This also shows why they like athletes. Perhaps this is the most apparent and I'm pretty sure reason you know. Defending resources and showing off resources that women need or find attractive. Things like cars, watches, clothes. You understand? Nowadays this actually doesn't mean as much as it used to though, because obviously women are now capable of making their own money, which makes it more difficult, but there is still women out there who don't want to rely on that, right? They would rather rely on a man. So even something like tattoos. Why women like tattoos, right? You're drawing attention to yourself. Things like dancing. Men do this all the time and it actually works. Taking salsa lessons or some bullshit. But it works. I'm not sure if y'all have ever watched National Geographic or the Animal Channel before, but I'm gonna bring up a situation which you should know. Right, there's almost these little insects doing like, they doing a little walk, like, to try to like dance and attract a mate. So that's dancing. Women also do this though, in a different form, which is twerking. Pretty much, look at what I can do, I have value. Or look at my ass. That's what the action is. And it goes deeper than this, but really any skills, talents, being a musician, card tricks, you get the point. In other words, the most important thing in this category is drawing attention to yourself. Pretty much saying you're valuable and deserving of a mate. You could even consider what I'm doing right now, that this is also part of the reason why women like fame though. Some people don't have to do anything valuable to become famous, but they're drawing attention to themselves. Like, hey, right? This is what you're doing. You're like this. Drawing attention to yourself. Like, do you understand? To sum it up, we are creatures. Our goal is to reproduce or we would die as a species. Men that the women choose to mate with will give us the best opportunity to keep on surviving. It's not the woman's fault. She would choose the best men so that we can survive. It actually used to be where men would be the one finding mates, but nowadays it's the woman finding mates. I suggest you look up mate choice, but this explains why the birth rates are declining. I'm going to use an example for this. It's like a species of bird, the button quail. Pretty much, the woman mates with a man and lays an egg, or has a baby nowadays. Then, instead of taking care of the baby like she would back in the days, she goes back to work, right? Or she leaves the nest, or whatever term you want to use. She leaves the house to make her own money. And since she's out of the house now, right, or has left the nest, she's by default now searching for another male to mate with. Because we are constantly looking for opportunities to reproduce. I forgot to mention this, but the man is the one taking the care of the eggs now. Actually, it might be more so the case that we're both outside and no one takes care of the egg. Then this leads to my next point. Beta bucks versus alpha fucks. This is going to be quite controversial, but I'm going to say it anyways. Can't believe I'm giving y'all this shit for free. Y'all motherfuckers better sell up, I ain't gonna lie. Should be charging y'all motherfuckers for this shit. I actually don't think one is worse than the other though. They are both still fucking and are required for us to reproduce as a species. Why? Because a certain group of men carry the genetics and the other half of men carry what? The ability to make sure that the kids survive. The reason why women mate like this is because if they were just to mate with the males with good genetics, the kids might die. Therefore, we wouldn't reproduce successfully. Now why is this? Because a lot of men just rely on their genetics to reproduce, and they don't provide anything. Pretty much I'll have a kid with you, but I won't keep you alive. I won't feed you. A lot of people in jail are this way. Only a certain group of men fall into this category of being attractive enough through genetics. Now of course I think that you should be working towards being more alpha or attractive or whatever this bullshit means by obviously going to the gym, looks maxing, etc. Because there are still ways to improve your sexual attraction by doing these things, despite what you were genetically born with or how genetically you were born. So what I don't want and what I would hate for it to happen is for men out there to automatically attest themselves to the latter when they haven't even put the work in the first place. Put the work in to be more sexually attractive in the first place. Also understand this, it might just be for the time period that you're in. For example, when women are young, they are more susceptible, more likely to be with a man who is more attractive. But as the older they get, the less they start to care about looks. Now is this me saying you have to get another man's sloppy seconds or some dumb shit? No. Right, for all I care, just know that you will have the opportunity in the future to sleep with this woman. Sloppy seconds or not, this woman might give you the opportunity to change your bloodline. So think long and hard about that. To carry on though, there are some people who are genetically inferior, even when they do maximize their looks, and then, and only then, will they require a different mating strategy. This is where I believe true black pillars fall in. I don't think it's impossible for you to reproduce though. In one situation, the woman is fucking for genetics or traits, right? And in the other situation, the woman is fucking for survival. You remember what I said earlier? She can sleep with a man who's tall just so that her kids can be tall. But this actually doesn't enhance our ability to survive. But it enhances our ability to reproduce. And that is okay. The problem is that a lot of these YouTube people and gurus have overanalyzed nature instead of just seeing it for what it is. I think what's more important is understanding which category you fall into. Understanding maybe, okay, I lack these attributes that I can't change, so I will use resources as a way to attract a woman. But at least your offspring won't have to deal with the same problems you have to the same degree. Saving your bloodline. Also, understanding the negatives of each category. For instance, if you are more sexually attractive, you are less likely to stay with a woman. If you are the latter, you are more likely to stay with a woman, right? Have marriage, have kids. But this also gives you a better chance or higher chance for divorce. Do not misconstrue this from me saying that you need to simp, right? I'm not saying to go pay for a girl. That's not what I'm saying. But know that instead of a woman wanting to sleep with you just off the muscle, you might have to show off your status, your car, your lifestyle, wear certain type of clothing in order to attract her. You might be saying, well, she's a gold digger. Do you want to be alone or not? Do you want to reproduce or not? I actually think that you should do this regardless of what position you are in. Because there is this saying, I'm sure that you've heard this saying before, but looks will only get you so far. Right, they'll only get you so far in life. There reaches a point where women no longer just care about looks, especially once you reach a certain echelon or trying to attract a certain caliber of woman. But know that if you are black pill, you are just going to have to lean into that more. Once again, this is not me saying to lead with your wallet, but what you're doing is you're drawing attention to yourself through things that people find valuable. No different than a squirrel gathering acorns for the winter in order to survive. Use the resources around you have to survive. Ensure your survival. You know, I'm actually going to say something personal that I've never said before. But there was a woman I was sleeping with, and she asked me if I would stay with her and take care of the child if she got pregnant. This was a couple years ago, and I was quite confused at the time when she had asked me this question, because it was out of nowhere. But now I understand. The reason why I was confusing was not for the reason that you would probably think, though. I know I'm speaking from a position of privilege here. This explains why some of these dating coaches will sound weird, though, because they might not even know why they're able to sleep with these women in the first place. They just know what they do works. But I actually took the time out to understand. So hopefully this changes your worldview. In the end, by default, most of y'all men will be beta. If you want a girlfriend, right, you will have to be this beta or whatever the fuck this shit is. Which is why I detest from this alpha terminology, unless you just use it for babies. But even then, understand that most of y'all won't be alpha. Maybe 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 100 of you watching this video would be considered that. So anywhere from 1 to 10%. There is only one leader of the pack by numbers alone.